Fingers. Why the line?
As you can see,
I got the domino.
yeah. 3-0.
Tertiary, beautiful.
Hold on, this load again. Hype train. Welcome to the Comox Valley Pizza Playoffs. I try to keep things fresh every week here, not just the pizza, but also the judges. New taste buds equal a fairer judging system. For our next matchup, we have RoysTowne Pub. Last time it had a bit of a mishap. It was over-cheesed and spilling over the sides, but it still made it here. Mr.Js almost got kicked out of the playoffs when I mistook which slice was which, but upon video review, it's here. So let's see what's in the boxes. Looking pretty tight. Taking my first bite of Mr.Js.
Oh, look at this. They're kind of not quite.
There's some bigger ones. He told me to quit slicing.
Okay.
Oh, the plate.
All right.
It's tasty. It's got some flavor.
Right.
There.
So the darker one is Mr.Js.
RoysTowne, more heavy on the oregano, but really melt in your mouth.
The more orange.
And what's your vote?
So this one was a no-brainer for me. Mr.J's tasted like cardboard. It was more dense, harder to chew. It did have better cheese, I thought, but the cook on RoysTowne on the cheese was crisp and nice. It was soft and flavorful, and so RoysTowne won for sure.
Yeah, Heather's right about that. I like the sauce better on the RoysTowne pizza for sure. And I'm not just biased because I was the one that picked up RoysTowne, but I do actually like it better. I like the crust better. Mr.J's is not bad. I mean, I like the cheddar that's on it, and the crust is pretty good on it too. But I'm gonna give RoysTowne an 8 and Mr.J's a 6.
Hands down, RoysTowne, no doubt about it. The first bite from RoysTowne was just a burst of flavors in my mouth. It was so delicious. And as far as Mr.J's, it was tasty, but it was tough. It was like chewing my saddle.
Wow, I'm going to mix things up a bit because I found there was on RoysTowne there was actually a mushy piece of dough when we cut it that I had eaten and didn't really like that very much. And where I like a thick crust, it was a bit too dense for me. And although the flavor was good in the sauce, Mr.J's had a better cheese flavor for me. I didn't like the end of the crust. It was a bit hard, and I like that a bit softer. But I would give Mr.J's an 8 and Roy's a 7.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Mr.Js as well on this one. It was fairly close. The crust was pretty close as far as my two pieces were concerned, but I found RoysTowne to be quite a bit more doughy. Not a lot of rich flavor in the RoysTowne, whereas Mr.J's, at least the cheese was quite flavorful with the different kinds in there. I have to give it to Mr.J's.
They were actually, to me, they were two fairly similar pieces of pizza. Neither of them were my favorite, to be honest. They both had similar flavors in their cheese, I thought. There wasn't a lot of separation there, but when it came down to the crust, Mr.J's was like cardboard. That was some of the chewiest, squeakiest, worst stuff I've ever eaten there. And then the RoysTowne one actually went down pretty good, and so that bumped it up a bit, and that gave RoysTowne the win for sure.
Thank you. That's 4-2.
Pretty much the same. There was no contest. RoysTowne was good. It was nearly perfect. Mr.J's tasted like something that I pulled out of the freezer.
Thank you.
Neither of these were my favorite either. I didn't think either of them were very exciting. But RoysTowne sort of edged it out. I didn't like Mr.J's crust. It tasted like cornbread. It was kind of an odd crust. The cheese I think was better than RoysTowne, and it was blended a little better. Like RoysTowne cheese, it was just a little bit congealed, like it was just sitting on top rather than blended in with the tomato and the crust. Yeah, so neither of them were super tasty, but I think I gave RoysTowne a 6 and Mr.J's a 5. So
Between the two, I'm going with RoysTowne. I wasn't a huge fan of the oregano flavor, which was the same issue I had with it last week. But in comparison, everything was a nice blend, whereas Mr.Js, the crust, reminded me of overcooked cornbread.
Thank you very much.
I got a little bit of a different opinion. I thought they were both decent pizzas, nothing extraordinary or anything like that. I'd have to give them a tie personally if I could, but
Nope, you can't.
Mr. J's just the right amount of cheese for me. I'll give Mr. J's that one.
So my vote doesn't actually matter here, but I am going to throw another one towards RoysTowne. I thought Mr. J's really suffered on the crust. I don't know what happened this time around, but it was not good, and the cheese was a little greasy. So that's a total of 8-3. RoysTowne is moving on to the finals.